Hi everyone, I'm Auro Ogorian with ACap Advisors and Accountants, and welcome to another episode of the ACap Recap, where we go beyond the blog to give you quick financial and tax tips. These topics are based on actual questions we receive or on recently hot topics. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the California Relief Grant Program that's really new and has a very tight deadline. But before we begin, remember to subscribe to our channel, like and share our videos, and if there's a topic that you want us to cover, make sure you to include it in the comments below or send us a message. California Governor Gavin Newsom just recently announced a new $500 million COVID relief grant program that's targeted to small businesses and to nonprofits. These grants range from $5,000 to $25,000 based on your gross annual revenues. Now, these grants, as I mentioned, are also available to nonprofits. So this video, we're going to talk about the timeline for requesting these grants, the eligibility for being able to qualify for a grant, and once you submit your application, how that grant recipient is determined and chosen. And then lastly, we're going to talk about, most importantly, the deadlines for submitting your applications. So the timeline for these new grants is super quick, so you have to act quickly. The application opened up on December 30th, and the deadline to submit all applications is January 8th. So as you can see, it gives you a very short time window. Now, it's important to note that the grants are not issued based on a first-come, first-served basis. So it's not as if whoever submitted their application on December 30th is going to have a higher priority, because as we'll talk about later, the criteria and how they determine who's going to receive the grant is based on a number of factors. So you have until January 8th, 2021 to submit your applications, because after that time, the application process closes. So who is eligible for these new grants? In order to be eligible for the grant, you have to be a small business. Now that includes a sole proprietor, a 1099 freelancer, a C Corp, S Corp, or an LLC, or a nonprofit. You have to have revenues between $1,000 a year or $2.5 million a year. That's the maximum. You have to have also been in business since June 2019 and still be operating or have plans to reopen because you've been closed due to COVID. You also have to have been impacted by COVID and have implemented health and safety restrictions or been subject to health and safety restrictions. You have to provide necessary documentation such as 990 filings, entity filings with the Secretary of State, articles of incorporation, anything that really the state would ask for to justify your existence as an entity. You have to provide those. And then lastly, you have to provide a government issued ID. So all those things are criteria to determine whether or not you're eligible for the grant. So how will the grant recipients be determined? First off, as I mentioned earlier, it's not going to be based on a first-come, first-served basis. Doesn't mean that if you are the first person that applied for an application on December 30th, that you're going to have a higher priority. Now, keep in mind, there are going to be thousands of companies applying for these grants. So first, they're going to determine based on that eligibility factors I mentioned earlier. And if a company is eligible, then they're going to rate you based on a number of other factors. They're going to look to see in your geographic area, how have you been impacted by the COVID pandemic? And then they're also going to take into consideration whether or not you're a minority-owned business. If you are a minority-owned business and operate in a low-to-income area, that also will be factored in. So all those considerations are looked at when they're determining who is going to be eligible for a grant. So now the most important part are the deadlines. As I mentioned earlier, the application opened up on December 30th of 2020, and you have until January 8th, 2021 to submit your application. That's when the portal closes. So as you can see, it's a very tight deadline. And then on January 13th, 2021 is when they'll start the approval notifications. So if you've been approved, you should get a notification by January 13th. I should also mention there's a second round of grants that's going to happen. However, those dates and deadlines have not been determined yet. Lastly, there are a list of ineligible businesses. Now that list is really long, and I'd encourage you to look at that list before you apply, so that way you won't go through all the trouble of applying for a grant only to realize that your business is not eligible to receive a grant. Now below, I'm going to include a link to where you can find more information about the California Relief Grant Program and how to find the ineligible business list.